Deepwoken players are delusional. In my last video, I covered some things I thought should be covered during the Operation Deep Healing update as far as reworks and balancing changes go. Some people left comments with some decent points, others not so much. In today's video, I want to go over some of the worst points you guys brought up, some of the decent ones, address additional points, and cover some stuff I may not have last time. Make sure to subscribe since 0%, and I mean nobody watching this video right now is actually subscribed. Look at the graph, dude, 0%? I have 0 subscribers. What the heck, man? Anyway, let's get straight into it. Alright, this first comment is quite a bit, and it's quite long. Let's get straight into it. Bruh, I hate everyone saying mantras are too strong, and actually in the current game, the tempo system sucks in all aspects, as it allows you to be too spammy at the start of a fight, but it makes long fights completely unplayable. So M1 peoples without skill just run until a mage get no ether, and playing really stupid. That's why tempo needs rework, and erudition needs a buff, because of brain dead M1 users. Also, 1 bar from Eclipse Kick is okay damage, even if it's a little bit more than 1 bar, but I've met too much peoples that do 3 bars per M1, especially Kier's Cleave and Repeater. Mantras outside the tempo are near to be perfectly balanced, but these M1s and attuneless players who punish you for 80% of your HP for missing 1 parry are too painful. I am really not understand why you think M1s need buffs, when not all mage builds are so brain dead and impossible to fight with. Please explain how mantras, which are smart moves that have windups in a lot of situations, crazy big end lag, and need to actually master them, should do less damage than brain dead M1s with easy timings. Not nearly that big slash windups or end lag, not requiring ether, which is really painful right now on mages, as tempo disappears and you can't cast anything after 15 or 20 seconds of the fight, where M1 users have 2 brain dead damage, so you will die instantly if get too close to... I think you need nerf 70% of the weapon's damage by around 2 times, and make tempo system that will actually reward mages to get closer, as all mage fights was really interesting parry and damage trades, but when I see M1/attunement list, it means if his PC is at least a little better than mine, he will terminate me without chance by just spamming M1. How bad is your PC? M1's just way more brain dead, as you need to keep in mind way less things and just hold M1. Please, stop this stupid M1 meta. Also, you as a YouTuber, stop ruining the game, as M1 gameplay is boring and easily to get off Deepwoken, when mages actually need a lot of things to know, test and train. You don't know how painful is playing pure mage now. Please have mercy and tell me any actual reason to nerf mages when it's attunementless M1 builds brain dead meta. Alright, now, per usual, please don't send hate to anyone in the comments who may have commented something stupid. Like, yes, this is a dumb comment, but don't send hate to this guy. It's probably just some like little kid that plays mage and isn't that good at Deepwoken, or at least that's what I assume it is. Imagine it's like a 40-year-old grown man with a family somewhere in like Lithuania or something. Sorry, that's completely unrelated. Anyway, yeah, don't send hate, but also, if you run out of ether and tempo in 15 seconds, dude, you suck. You're the worst mage player in North America. In the world, actually. That was a lot. Okay, this is just so much to deal with. First of all, your argument about tempo just proves that, I mean, this entire thing, you're obviously a mage player, right? Complaining about how you can spam in the beginning, but late in fights you never have any ether. This argument doesn't even apply to a singular aspect of the game, because in Chime you get high tempo, and fights never really last long enough for you to run out of tempo, but in overworld ganks, you don't start with max tempo, making it harder to spam, while also, depending on how, like, the numbers are in a gank, you may or may not be able to get more tempo back when spamming mantras, but that's a completely separate thing, right? So, I'm just gonna assume that you're a Chime of Conflict only mage player, because that's the only way I could see you complaining about this, because your initial 2 points are contradictory, because neither of those can be active issues at the same time. One is an overworld issue, one is a Chime issue, okay? And maybe you play overworld and Chime, but I'm gonna assume you only play Chime. And complaining about brain dead M1 users is insane, and let's be real, if you're losing because someone who's using an M1 build is dodging your mantras and you're just not getting hits off and you're not getting an ether, you might just have a massive skill issue or the worst build ever made, because even if you're only using mantras on a mage build, if you're running out of ether too fast, then you're literally just not hitting anything. And along with that, if you're going against a quote-unquote M1 user, which by the way is a crazy statement, because calling someone an M1 user implies that you aren't using your M1 to swing your weapon like at all throughout fights. Regardless, if you're going against an M1 user, they're at the inherent disadvantage because you're a mage. You force them to push you because you always have a range advantage when you're spamming mantras. This entire comment just sounds like you managed to be bad at mage. And also, you saying erudition needs a buff? This comes off like rage bait. And if attunementless players are hitting you for 80% of your health, you're power 5 in Freshy Rags. And then complaining about how M1s are brain dead and you need to master mantras and that they take skill to use use. Bro, you press one button and run in a circle and the moves come out, okay? And the reason why some heavy weapons, not even all of them, you're just talking about the top 1% of heavy weapons, do a lot of M1 damage, is to compensate for the fact that in general it takes more effort to land an M1 than a mantra, because it's easier to parry an M1, and feinting an M1 is less effective than feinting a mantra. Therefore, a single M1 should generally be more rewarding than a single mantra, especially when there are multiple mantras designed to catch rolls and for mix-ups and stuff like that. Like, I just think it's funny that you think there's an M1 meta. No. The only valid complaint you have here is about attunementless players, which, yeah, I think, like, Exhaustion Strike, for example, I think needs a small nerf, if anything. But other than that, this is just entirely wrong. Mages are boring to fight, they're boring and easy to use, and they should be nerfed. And the fact that you think that weapon damage should be nerfed by, like, 2x, so you're saying that most weapons need their damage halved, is insane. Like, and then just, please, as a YouTuber, stop ruining the game. You think YouTubers are ruining the game? You think YouTubers are the reason the game is being ruined? The blame is shifted. It's now off the developers. Now it's the YouTubers' fault why we're in this brain-dead M1 spamming meta where you hold down left click and you hit your opponent every time because they don't know how to press F on their keyboard. Which honestly, yeah, I would believe it, because most mage players don't even need to engage in parry trades. So the counter to this guy's playstyle is literally just run at him holding M1, because he won't be able to parry any of it and then you'll stun lock him. What are we talking about? Like, most of this video, this is gonna be most of this video. It's me going over this dumbass comment, and there's a few others that I wanted to get into, but this just comes off like rage bait. It's actually insane. But the thing is, it doesn't feel like rage bait, even though it feels like if someone with a functioning brain were writing it, it would be rage bait. But that's just a dumb comment. Now here is a less brain-dead comment. My take on mage gameplay as a Saint Swarm player is that it should be a valid option, but definitely not as strong or annoying and oppressive to play against. They should incentivize a burst style of gameplay instead of full zoning all the time, and force you to engage in close combat with your weapon to get your ether back and deal high damage bursts with mantras after gaining that ether, similarly to playing ABBA in Guilty Gear. And yeah, I actually do agree with this one. It would basically be a cycle where you would be able to use a bunch of mantras and then you'd have to go in for a closer ranged fight, and then once you have profited off the closer ranged fight by landing hits, you would then be able to back off and use your mantras again. So you'd cycle between M1s and mantras as a mage build, so it'd be like 50-50 versus regular builds, which would more so incorporate mantras into the combat as their M1ing. You get the point? Which also you could just do that as a playstyle difference, and it would be less obnoxious. And yeah, like, I don't think people who play mages should just be completely eradicated, because if that's how you like to play the game, that's how you like to play the game. You know, until I lose to one. Then I do think you should be completely eradicated. But regardless, zoning should be punished, and if you spend 90% of a fight running, that just shouldn't be allowed. And then the horde of comments in regards to shaky block, which I didn't even mention last video, but some people were like, ah, you forgot to mention shaky block, and it kind of started a bunch of arguments down in the comments, right? So shaky block happens when you miss a parry. Afterwards, you're unable to block, and you're forced to either try for a tighter frame parry or eat the entire combo. Shaky block is a mechanic made to reward people for, you know, comboing opponents by allowing potential for combos, and fundamentally, I actually don't know why they added it, other than maybe to stop people from, like, holding F and escaping combos by blocking. Fundamentally, Deepwoken is built on a combat system in which getting hit is usually just the punishment for getting hit. Deepwoken's combat was essentially made antagonistically to Rogue Lineage's combat, in which getting hit usually just led to more combos, and the big problem with Rogue Lineage was that you would just get one comboed, right? And I guess shaky block was added to prevent people from holding F to escape combos, but that's not really a good solution, because now it changes the combat fundamentally to where getting hit once is no longer the only potential punishment and negative towards you for getting hit. And if their problem was people escaping combos by holding F, that's a non-issue. If you know someone likes to hold F to escape combos, then you can punish it by ending a combo string early with a guard break and then continuing the combo after that, or at least getting a few extra hits in, because, you know, maybe they would hold F again. Boom, you just still got a lot of damage because you got a guard break and an extra hit after. It's literally just a counterable issue the devs thought needed a new mechanic. Integrated for, which completely changed the way the game was played. Holding F wasn't even that good against most builds back then, because both then and now people run guaranteed guard break mantras, and if it was really an issue against certain attunements, then the developers could just integrate guard break mantras for attunements that didn't have them. Some people think it's a necessary addition, so if you have an opinion on shaky block, leave it down below. I want to see what you guys think. And I personally do think it was unnecessary. Like, worst case, the devs could have just nerfed blocking posture specifically, and the only argument I've heard for before Shaky Block was in the comment replies, where someone said, if Shaky Block incentivizes people to be more aggressive by making combos easier to land and more valuable, then without Shaky Block, people would play more passive. That's a logical argumentative fallacy. I forget which one. I think it's Slippery Slope, but it is. And no, that's not true at all. Shaky Block just made it so you no longer had to use mix-ups to predict for a guard break. And then someone else said, but before Shaky Block, you'd land a mix-up and only get one hit because you can't extend combos. But yeah, that's the point. You were never supposed to land 6 mantra strings before, and even now you shouldn't, which is why you can still parry after it. Shaky Block just rewards people more for pressing 1 through 6 on their keyboard now because it's easier to do than it was before. It's not necessarily like Shaky Block is stopping people from playing passive, it's just incentivizing people to play a little bit more brain dead because now it's easier to get away with dropping 6 mantras on someone. Anyway, someone else twisted my words a bit. Oh, M1 damage is low, so we need to nerf mages, not just buff M1 damage instead. First of all, M1 damage isn't low. It's just vastly more effort to play while incentivizing M1s over mantras. Mantras are both easier and more effective. They shouldn't be both. They're the best option, and there's no trade-off to this since they're very spammable right now. I'm not saying that like we necessarily need to nerf the damage on mantras or buff the damage on M1s. I'm saying that mantras just need a reduction in how much they can be used because they shouldn't be the most effective option every time, and you shouldn't also have the ability to use that option every time if it's the most effective. It's just lame, right? Because then why would people do anything else? They don't. That's the entire thing that's wrong with mage builds. They don't do anything else. They just spam mantras, right? It shouldn't be both the easiest and the most effective playstyle, right? I'm not saying mages should be completely killed off, but if it's easy and it's effective and it doesn't take skill, I don't think it should be particularly good, right? And I don't think that that's healthy in the game. It just shouldn't really be allowed to exist like that, right? Low-key, they should nerf guard break mantras, because right now dagger plus quick guard break mantra is almost true, because dagger M1s are kind of unreactable and you have to predict parry against it. And I get it's a dagger, it's supposed to be fast, but you getting a free guard break because you predict parried against a weapon you're supposed to predict parry is kind of stupid. I think they should add a system where the quick guard break mantras deal more posture damage the heavier your weapon is. So daggers would do 50%, medium 90%, and heavy guard break. Because on Chime right now, dagger doesn't need anything but the guard break, and they still win. Okay, this one, I know a lot of people are going to agree with this, a lot of people are going to disagree with this. I don't think that's really the problem. I think the problem is the fact that right now with dagger, it kind of forces you into a position where you have to, like, I don't think this is a guard break mantra problem. I think this is a dagger problem. Because right now, dagger is weird, and it's not the best weapon, but it's really good at abusing Shaky Block. Because they force you into a situation where you will probably have to be in Shaky Block, and it'll force you to try and predict a parry because, you know, you can't block, or they'll have to force you into a position where they can just get the guard break mantra. So I don't think this is a problem with guard break mantras. I think it's a problem with dagger and how it's fundamentally designed. But, you know, that's a lot harder to work with than just like nerfing mages in one of the 18 different ways I suggested that they could possibly do it. This has a little bit more nuance to it. And I could make a video on it, and I could talk about it more, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't want to, because I think it really just means they need to do something about Shaky Block as it is, or at least in combination with daggers. Alright, now for the final point I wanted to cover. A lot of people thought I was making that last video and I was just telling the devs to remove hyper armor. Some people agreed, some people disagreed. No, the devs shouldn't remove hyper armor. Did you guys even listen to the section where I was talking about heavy hyper armor? I'm pretty sure that's the first section in the last video. They should not remove heavy hyper armor, okay? The entire point of heavy weapons is they're slow and do a lot of damage, so you have to play around them. They dictate the flow of the fight, and you're supposed to respect heavy weapons and their M1s. That's the point. The point I was making is that I shouldn't be punished for outplaying my opponent. So yes, on a regular approaching M1, yeah, they should have hyper armor, because, you know, you should be respecting the heavy weapon. But they shouldn't have hyper armor directly after a feint, allowing them to get free positive trades because their weapon always does more damage than mine. That was the point I was making. Don't remove heavy hyper armor, just remove heavy hyper armor directly after a feint so they don't get free trades. That's what I was saying, and a lot of people just misinterpreted that as remove all heavy hyper armor. No. If you think heavy hyper armor outside of like feint into trade is a problem, then that's a problem with how you play, because you aren't respecting the heavy weapons. You're supposed to. They're supposed to be played around like that. That's just how it works. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any comments or stuff to say about this, then leave it down below. I'm getting a second banner done by Chick the Artist for the live channel, so go check out the live channel. I'm gonna start uploading uploading there every Saturday again. I will upload weekly on there, I promise, okay? So for those of you that like my non-Deepwoken, non-Roblox stuff, go check me out over there. I mean, there's some Roblox over there, but it's like variety stuff, okay? So go watch my other stuff. I think those videos are fun. I put more effort into them anyway. Shoutouts to YouTube members of Tier 2 and higher: Green, Goobka, Highcard, Philip, Delusional Mo, Fun Guns, Elstern, Broccoli, Carlia the Witch, Akio Sugikuni, Burger, Vekazu, V. Corey, IXKMB, and, of course, Drizzy Drake Fan. Thank you so much, Drizzy Drake Fan. You are now on 26 months of membership. Insane. I love you all. Check out my live channel where I post non-Deepwoken stuff, of course. New videos Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have an amazing day, and, of course, goodbye.